Mark stood at the entrance of the busy international airport, clutching his backpack tightly. The automatic glass doors slid open, revealing a bustling crowd of travelers, pulling suitcases and checking flight information on large screens above. The constant hum of conversations, mixed with the occasional announcement echoing through the speakers, made everything feel overwhelming. He took a deep breath. It was his first time traveling alone, and he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. His flight to London was scheduled for later that afternoon, but the airport seemed so vast and confusing that he wasn't sure where to begin. Mark scanned the area and noticed a large sign hanging from the ceiling. Departures with an arrow pointing forward. "Okay," he whispered to himself. "I need to find the check-in counter." As he stepped forward, his eyes landed on a nearby information desk with a friendly-looking airport staff member behind it. Gathering his courage, he approached and smiled politely. "Excuse me," Mark began, his voice slightly hesitant. "Where can I check in for my flight to London?" The staff member returned the smile and nodded. "The check-in counters are straight ahead. Just follow the signs. Make sure to have your passport and ticket ready." "Thank you," Mark replied, feeling a bit more confident. Walking toward the check-in area, he noticed various screens displaying flight numbers and destinations. The crowd was diverse families, business travelers, and solo passengers like him, each engaged in their own journey. Mark's heart raced as he spotted his flight number on the screen. Flight 475 to London. On time. "Okay, I'm doing this," he thought. Approaching the row of check-in counters, Mark double-checked his passport and ticket in his hand. The next step was clear, but his mind kept rehearsing the phrases he had just used. "Excuse me? Where can I check in?" He was ready for the next step. Mark stepped into the check-in area, noticing the long rows of counters divided by airlines. Each counter had a bright screen displaying destinations and flight numbers. He spotted the one marked London Flight 475 and joined the short line, feeling the weight of his passport and ticket in his hand. The passengers ahead of him were speaking softly with the agents, handing over documents and placing their bags on the scale. Mark listened closely, trying to catch familiar phrases. "Here's my passport. Do you need my boarding pass too?" He felt a bit more prepared, but still repeated the words in his head just to be sure. Soon it was his turn. He stepped forward and was greeted by a polite airline agent wearing a navy uniform and a badge that read Sarah. "Good afternoon," she said with a smile. "Where are you flying today?" Mark cleared his throat and replied, "Good afternoon. I'm flying to London." "Great. May I have your passport and ticket, please?" Mark handed both documents carefully. "Do you have any bags to check in today?" she asked as she began typing on her computer. "Yes, just one suitcase," Mark responded, placing his luggage on the conveyor belt next to the counter. The screen blinked as the weight was displayed, 21.5 kilograms. Sarah nodded. "Perfect. Your luggage is under the weight limit. Please confirm this is a direct flight to London, correct?" "Yes, direct flight," Mark confirmed, feeling a bit more relaxed. She continued typing, then tore off a printed boarding pass and handed it to him along with his passport. "Here's your boarding pass. Your gate number is Gate 5, and boarding will begin at 2:30 p.m. Please keep this with you and be sure to arrive at the gate on time. Have a great flight." Mark felt a wave of relief. "Thank you very much." Just as he turned to leave, Sarah added, "Oh, and security check is just past the escalators. Follow the signs for security control." Mark nodded, giving a small thumbs up as he walked away. He looked down at his boarding pass, double-checking the gate and boarding time. Gate 5. Boarding at 2:30 p.m. The next step was security, but he couldn't shake the slight nervousness building in his chest. He had seen the process before, people removing shoes, placing items on trays, but had never done it alone. "Stay calm," he thought. "I've got this." He followed the signs for security check, mentally preparing himself for the next step of the journey. Mark approached the security checkpoint, where a line of travelers waited with their carry-on bags. The area felt more serious now. Officers in uniforms guided passengers, and signs reminded people to remove liquids and electronics. Taking a deep breath, Mark joined the line. He watched the passengers ahead of him place their bags in large gray plastic trays on a moving belt. A sign nearby listed instructions: remove laptops and tablets, take off shoes and belts, place liquids in a clear plastic bag. The line moved forward, and it was Mark's turn. A security officer, tall and serious, gestured toward the trays. "Please place your items on the belt," the officer said in a calm, professional tone. Mark nodded and placed his backpack on the tray. Then he remembered the sign: electronics. "Oh, wait," he mumbled, quickly unzipping the front pocket of his bag. He pulled out his laptop and placed it in a separate tray. The officer continued, "Any liquids, sir?" I don't think so," Mark replied, patting his pockets just to be sure. "Please remove your shoes and belt as well," the officer instructed. Mark slipped off his sneakers and unfastened his belt, placing them carefully in a third tray. As he stepped toward the body scanner, he noticed another traveler being asked to remove a water bottle. "Good thing I checked," he thought. The officer gestured toward the scanner. "Step forward, please. Raise your arms." Mark followed the instructions. The machine beeped once, but stayed green. "Thank you. You're all set," the officer said with a nod. Mark returned to the conveyor belt, where his items were coming out of the scanner. He grabbed his shoes, laptop, and backpack, but noticed his belt hadn't appeared yet. He glanced back at the machine, feeling a wave of worry. A different officer approached, holding his belt. "Sir, this was pulled for a quick check. May I inspect it?" Sure," Mark said, trying to stay calm. The officer examined the buckle, then returned it with a polite smile. "All good. Thank you for your patience." Mark let out a quiet sigh of relief. He quickly put on his shoes and belt, secured his laptop, and walked past the checkpoint. He paused for a moment to check his boarding pass again. Gate 5. Boarding at 2:30 p.m. Feeling more confident, he spotted the next set of signs leading toward the departure gates. He was officially through security, one step closer to his flight. Mark emerged from the security checkpoint, adjusting his backpack straps as he scanned the wide-open terminal. Bright windows filled the space with natural light, and a sea of travelers moved in all directions, pulling rolling suitcases and chatting quietly. He took a moment to locate the overhead signs. Large blue panels displayed arrows and numbers. Gates 1 to 10 gives restrooms, food court. Gate 5, follow the arrows. Mark began walking, carefully weaving through the crowd. The terminal felt massive, with long corridors lined with duty-free shops, cafes, and waiting areas. He passed a group of children playing with travel pillows, a businesswoman speaking on her phone, and a couple browsing snacks. Suddenly, Mark noticed two paths diverging. One sign said gates 1 to 4 to the left, and gates 5 to 10 to the right. He hesitated. The arrows seemed confusing, and he didn't want to risk going the wrong way. Spotting a uniformed airport staff member near a kiosk, Mark approached with a polite smile. "Excuse me," he said, holding up his boarding pass. "Could you help me find Gate 5? The staff member returned his smile. "Of course. Keep going straight, then take a left after the coffee shop. Gate 5 will be right there." "Thank you so much," Mark replied, feeling reassured. Following the directions carefully, he soon spotted a large sign above reading Gate 5. A few passengers were already seated near the glass windows overlooking the runway. Mark checked his boarding pass once more. Boarding at 2:30 p.m. Still some time left. He found an empty seat near the window and sighed with relief. Outside, a massive airplane was being prepared for departure, with ground staff moving luggage and fueling the plane. "I made it here early," Mark thought, feeling a surge of confidence. "Now I just need to wait for boarding." He glanced at a nearby coffee shop. Maybe a small break would help him relax before the flight. Mark sat near the window, watching the planes outside. The steady hum of conversations and the occasional beep of carts moving through the terminal created a peaceful yet busy atmosphere. His flight wouldn't board for another 20 minutes, so he decided to grab a coffee to pass the time. Standing up, he walked over to the nearby cafe. A friendly barista in a green apron greeted him from behind the counter. "Hello, what can I get for you today?" she asked with a smile. Mark thought for a moment, then replied, "I'd like a small coffee, please." "Would you like it black or with cream and sugar?" "Just black, thank you." "That'll be $3.50. Cash or card?" "Card, please." Mark handed over his card, and after a quick tap, the barista handed him a steaming cup of coffee, along with a receipt. "Here you go. Have a great flight." "Thank you." Mark replied, feeling more relaxed as he sipped his coffee and returned to his seat by the gate. He checked his boarding pass again, ensuring everything was in order. Gate 5. Boarding at 2:30 p.m. Still on time. A calm voice interrupted the terminal's chatter as an announcement echoed. "Attention. Passengers of Flight 475 to London. Boarding will begin shortly at Gate 5. Please have your boarding pass and passport ready." Mark finished his coffee, packed away his belongings, and prepared for the final step before his flight. Mark sat up straight in his seat as the announcement echoed through the terminal. "Attention, passengers of Flight 475 to London. Boarding will begin shortly at Gate 5. Please have your boarding pass and passport ready." His heart began to race again, not from nerves this time, but from excitement. The reality of traveling alone was sinking in. He checked his boarding pass one last time. Gate 5. Boarding at 2:30 p.m. Seat 1, 8A. Passengers were starting to gather near the gate, forming a loose line. Mark decided it was best to join them early. As he approached, he noticed the gate agent holding a microphone and organizing the boarding process. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will now begin pre-boarding for Flight 475 to London. Passengers requiring assistance and families with young children may board first." A few families moved forward, and Mark took the opportunity to check his passport and boarding pass, keeping both in hand as instructed earlier. The gate agent continued, "Now boarding Group 1 and Group 2. Please have your documents ready." Mark noticed the group number printed on his boarding pass, Group 3. He waited patiently as the first groups entered the jet bridge. Then the agent made the next call. "Group 3, please proceed to the gate." Taking a deep breath, Mark approached the counter. He handed over his documents with a polite smile. "Good afternoon," the gate agent said, scanning his boarding pass. A short beep confirmed it was valid. "Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Your seat is 18A on the left side of the plane. Enjoy your flight." Mark nodded. "Thank you very much." Walking down the jet bridge, he felt a mix of relief and excitement. The plane's entrance was just ahead. He stepped on board, greeted by a flight attendant who guided him toward his seat. He was finally on his way. Mark settled into his seat, fastening his seat belt as the plane filled with other passengers. The gentle hum of the engines created a soothing background noise as the flight attendants moved through the cabin, assisting travelers and ensuring everyone was comfortably seated. He gazed out the window, watching the airport's activity below. Baggage carts moved swiftly across the tarmac, while ground staff gave final signals to the pilots. It was all happening. He was officially on his way to London. As he sat there, he reflected on the entire experience, replaying each step in his mind. "I did it," he thought with a proud smile. "I managed to check in, pass security, and find my gate all in English. I didn't panic, I stayed calm, and I asked for help when I needed it." The memory of speaking with the gate agent and the coffee shop barista felt like small victories. Even the nervous moments at the security checkpoint taught him something valuable. He remembered how simple yet effective phrases had been his greatest tools. "Excuse me, where can I check in? Please place your items on the belt. Can I have a small coffee, please?" It was clearer now how essential those basic expressions were for real-life situations. English wasn't just a subject to study, it was a skill he had used today. A soft ding interrupted his thoughts as the captain's voice came through the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Flight 475 to London. Our estimated flight time is 6 hours, and we're expecting a smooth journey." "Thank you for flying with us," Mark smiled. He had done it. His journey was just beginning, and now he felt prepared for the next steps, navigating customs, exploring a new city, and even more conversations in English. This experience had boosted his confidence more than he could have imagined. Every word spoken was progress. As the plane gently began to taxi toward the runway, Mark felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had faced the unknown and come out stronger, and now London awaited.